Hey everybody, Tim here with today's Star Wars review, part 3 of season 3 of Rebels. We got a two-parter, which is kind of awesome, because I talked about it, I think it was during season 1, where I loved Clone Wars, and how Clone Wars had like these 3, 4, 5 episode arcs, especially if you watch them in chronological order and not broadcast order. Whereas Rebels kind of does it, but it's very like every episode's kind of by itself. So anytime we get like a two-parter, it's kind of exciting. So I'll do like 11 through 15, like kind of sticking with the 5-episode thing. So 11 and 12 is the Ghosts of Geonsis. Super excited. Organa sends them to Geonosis to kind of look into stuff. And they bring up Saw Gerrera. And he shows up. The character who we've talked about before actually shows up. Now, this two-parter came out after Rogue One came out. If you've seen Rogue One, it obviously takes place before that. But it was kind of interesting because now, like, Forrest Whitaker, who's a terrific actor, I absolutely love him in so much stuff. Everything from, like, The Crying Game to Good Morning Vietnam to even Panic Room. He's a great actor. And he played Saw Gerrera in Rogue One. And so we saw his character was first created for the Clone Wars, and then he was in Rogue One, and now he's in this. And so his character in this is based more off of his Rogue One persona than anything else. Although his eyes keep changing. Because I think in Clone Wars his eyes were blue. And then Forrest Whitaker has naturally brown eyes. And then this one, he's actually has green eyes. So they kind of just keep changing. But who knows, maybe it's part of his race or something. I don't know. But, so I love that. The other thing that kind of gets to me is Forrest Whitaker is a very classically trained actor. And you can just tell that he's used to acting and not voice acting. Which, I don't know, people always say, like, voice actors are actors too. And I 100% agree with that. But it's a different type of acting. Like, it's very much its own type of thing. And you can just kind of tell, like, you watch everybody else and they're just natural and they go. And Forrest Whitaker is he's kind of awkward. Like, he laughs, like, just the way his character laughs and stuff. I don't know, he's very awkward. He has these long pauses, and it could be part of the character. I don't know. But to me, it just seemed like it was very awkward acting. So it was kind of interesting. They meet Click Clack, which is one of the bugs of Geonosis, and he keeps drawing a circle in a circle, and they're like, well, maybe it's the rings around Geonosis. Well, maybe it's this. Well, maybe it's that. To us, it's obviously the Death Star, so that's cool. We do see a little clip of Saw's sister Stella, again from Clone Wars, so that was kind of cool. Sabine has the line of stupid sand, it gets everywhere. Like, other than making fun of Anakin, I don't know why you would put that line in there. It's 100%. Like, it is just making fun of Anakin's line. But even then, like, it instantly kind of took me out of the episode. Like, oh, God, here we go. But I don't know. It was more distracting than anything. So, overall, it was an interesting two-parter. I did really like it. I did think it was a lot of fun. It was great to see Saw Gerrera again. And his character, like, it's kind of weird, but his character's probably had the biggest arc out of anybody to go from Clone Wars to being in a live-action movie to being in Rebels now. It's kind of interesting. So, overall, I really did like it. Episode 13, Warhead, was okay, where, like, Zeb is in charge of Chopper and AP-5, and we see the protocol droid, who is kind of, if you've ever seen the original designs for, like, C-3PO, it's kind of what it looked like. And then when he basically doesn't remember anything, and then when he finally does, he becomes this big attack droid. And so they have to figure out a way to wipe its memory and send it back, and it blows up a Imperial ship. And then Thawne is like, well, now it's eliminated to 94 planets that they could be on. So Thawne is showing, like, how much of a badass he is. It's not a terrible story, but it is kind of an interesting story. Episode 14, Trials of the Darksaber. Again, it's interesting, but season 3 is just kind of dragging for me, where it's all about like Clan Vizsla, and we find out about Ta Vizsla, who was the first Jedi Mandalorian, which is where the Darksaber comes from. And most of the episode is actually Kanan teaching Sabine like the different movements and stuff, and her interacting with Ezra, because he's like, oh, I know how to do this and I'll teach you. And she's like, I've been fighting a lot longer than you have. But she doesn't know like the Jedi Master. And if anything, Hera has the best lines, where he's like, well, I don't want her to get hurt. She's already hurting. Just teach her. So stuff like that was kind of interesting. And then finally we'll end it with the Legacy of Mandalore, where we see Ursa Wren, Sabine's mother, which we saw briefly in the last season of Clone Wars. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Them defeating Gar Saxon, and then Sabine just staying behind. Like, I have trouble with the Mandalore episodes. Like, anytime I talk about Mandalore with my friends and stuff, and they talk about how badass of a race they are, and how they're basically the Klingons of Star Wars. Like, all they live for is the glory of battle. And I don't know, like, it seems so political. But then again, like when I was doing my Star Trek binges, Klingons were so badass, and then it just became so political. And I was like, ugh, now I don't like Klingons anymore. So I don't know, I'm struggling with the Mandalore episodes. So curious what you guys think so far. I will see you guys next time for the final part of Season 3.